Hi, everybody. Will Alexander here with this week's interview chair. This week we have Mr. Brian Taylor. And I have to tell you, growing up, Brian Taylor was probably the reason I decided I wanted to be a dog handler because he was just so cool. Name showed Irish Setters and Beagles, which, surprise. All right, sit back and enjoy Brian Taylor. Hi, everybody. Will Alexander here. Today in the interview chair, we have probably the reason I decided to be a professional handler, Mr. Brian Taylor. Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm just doing fine, Will. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm glad we could get together and do this. Everything is good?
Well, finally.
Exactly.
I've seen a few of your podcasts and enjoyed most of them, and it was good.
Oh, good. Excellent. How's Margaret?
She's doing just fine. She's my technical support, setting this stuff up.
We all need that. Okay. Well, let's get started then. I'd like to, the very first question, Brian, is how did you get started in the sport of dogs and how old were you?
Well, it was probably, I was probably around 24, 25. Went on a trip to England, and while I was there, I kind of fell in love with the German Shepherd puppy and brought him back to Canada and then started to show him, and didn't have a great temperament for showing. So then I saw an Irish setter I liked, so I went down to New York to Red Barn Kennel, Marion Neville, and bought an Irish setter from her. He was Red Barn Irish Juniper, the beautiful dog. Unfortunately, he went for a midnight walk one night and never got off the highway before the car hit him. So,
oh, gee,
but that turned me into Irish setters anyway at that time. So,
what year was that, Brian?
It was probably 62, 61, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. And did you show this dog then?
The new one, no, I did, but he wasn't particularly a great Irish setter. You know, the other one I think would have been a very good one, but the second one, not so good.
Where did you get the second one?
When?
Yeah, where? Where did you get the second one?
Same place.
Oh, same
Red Barn, Marion Neville, yeah.
Okay.
She had a very big Irish setter kennel just outside of New York. So.
Okay, so where did we go from there? So you're showing Irish setters now.
Well, from there we did. Then at a dog show, I saw Judy, and eventually we got together, got married, and started to breed Goldens and Irish setters. Eventually gave up on Irish setters because we couldn't get anything we really liked or didn't. Excuse me. But then, Golden seemed to be doing very well. So we decided we'd concentrate on Goldens. And I sold all my Irish setters to your friend, Jerry Tucker.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so that was the way I met him. So I eventually came back and showed a lot of Jerry's dogs over the years. So that's how that came about.
So you and Judy got together, and what year would that have been?
It was probably in 68 or 69. I'd moved to St. Catharines with my job in 67, and I think I met Judy in the fall of 67, and we got married in 68.
And then it just evolved into a handling team? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it's a handling team with a working partner. I always had a day job. Mm-hmm. So Judy looked after the dogs during the day, and I showed on the weekends and trimmed at night. So
all right,
that's how that situation worked for us. So
Can we go through some of the dogs then? What was the first dog that really got the bug going for showing Irish setters?
Well, it was a dog from St. George, Ontario, owned by a woman named Kit Cole. His name was Kelly Cole. I don't remember his registered name now, but I very, very early, and probably within the first year or so, I won a group on the dog in Barrie, and that kind of said, "Well, okay, I seem to have a bit of a knack for this." Obviously, I was pretty much of a novice at the time, but eventually showing more and more, and I was a member of the Irish Setter Club, and few people there thought I could handle their dogs better than they could, so I picked a few clients there, and it just evolved from there. So,
when did Laird Shane come along?
Laird Shane came along about a couple of years later. I'd met Betty Crawford from Jackson, Ohio, owned Shannon Kennels. She was the one who bred one of the top winning dogs that Tommy Glassford showed, Major O'Shannon.
Now, was he a brother to Shane, or were they different litters? Or
no, they were identical. She bred the same two dogs 3 times.
Oh, okay.
And Shane was the first litter, and there was a Sean Varon, Major O'Shannon, and a couple more. But Shane was a really, really nice dog, very showy, very sound. And I sent you a picture of him with Stan, and not overly coated, not heavily coated, but a very willing dog. So that really, gave me my first best in show. And I had him up here for a year, but he did very well that year. So.
Was he top sporting dog? I think he was.
No. I think he was. Tommy had him up before, and I think he was then. When I had him, he was second because Tommy Troutfeld in Halifax had Basketball Boy out at that time, and he was automatically best in show at every show in the East Coast. You had to beat him in the breed, because once he got out of the breed, he was breathtaking dog to look at.
That was the end. I actually spoke to Ken Murray about that dog. Ken Murray owned that dog originally.
Did he? Oh, okay. Oh, so he showed for Lucy Jane then.
Yeah, well, he owned the dog, and then I think he won the Golden Leash Award with it. He was.
Did he? Wow.
Yeah, he was.
Well, there you go.
Exactly. Yeah. So Ed Shane. What year was that? Was that 69 with Shane? Or 70?
It might have been 69. No, it might have been 70 or 71, I think.
Okay. And what came next?
All the years a run together. After that, I was in a year or so after that, I got Finn McCool. He came up just to finish, actually, and so I finished him one weekend, 2 weekends. And then his owner said, "Oh, well, if you want to keep him for a while, you can, and special him." So I did. And, the rest was history for him. He was top sporting 2 years in a row, won the Irish Setter National 3 years in a row, and, was really a fabulously sound Irish Setter, very good show dog. And,
well, that was a dog I remember. That's how I first saw you. You were showing.
Yeah, and you and Dave was showing Olaf.
Yeah, that was my father, Dave. Yeah. But I remember thinking, "Oh, wow, I always thought you were so cool." And then,
still am.
I know you are. I know. But it was, and then I think the first 2 dogs I really noticed you with were Finny and Crackers.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Crackers also a great show dog, and I've sent you some pictures of him too. But he was owned by Dennis Summers, and one day this guy came up to me at a show and says, "Brian, I've been watching you for a while." And I thought, "Oh shit, what have I done?" I thought he was a cop who was going to arrest me. But in the end, he explained he watched and see how I looked after the dogs, etc., and asked, "Would I like to show this Beagle?" And I thought, "Wow, Beagles, nobody showed beagles. At that time, beagles were, off the chart. But anyway, I thought, okay, I'll give him a crack. Well, fair enough. The first show I went out, he won a group. I thought, wow, that's pretty nice. So then we kept him. And that was in, I think, around 71, 72. And I was on strike at the time because of in the elevator business anyway. So we decided we'd take a trip out to Vancouver in January and drove out to Vancouver and took crackers out there. And it was a fashion show, the first show I showed them out there with Melvin Dowling. So.
Oh, wow. We're talking about Wagon Wheels Wisecrack. He was a very famous
That was his name, yeah. Yeah, it was Evelyn Drogue was the Wagon Wheels. She was from Virginia, I believe she was from. So. But,
sounds pretty familiar. Irish Setters and Beagles and Irish Setters and Beagles. I wonder how I figured that out.
I think somebody came along and I was cloned and put into someone else's body. And I said, he's doing the same thing I did. We won't talk about marriages either, right?
No, we'll leave that alone.
We'll leave that one. Leave that one for another time.
So Finney was showing what you said. He was top sporting dog 3 years in a row.
No, 2.
Oh, 2 years in a row. Okay, I thought
2 years in a row, but he won the Irish 7 national one.
Oh, okay.
3 years in a row. So,
who owned Finney? Just so people know, it's Dunholm's Finn McCool, which is bred by John and Savory.
And Savory, yeah. The owner was a guy called Michael P. Johnson. He was an architect out of Milwaukee. And he was a student of Frank Lloyd Wright. So he built his houses very similar to Frank Lloyd Wright.
That doesn't give me any. I don't know that.
You don't know that? Well, if you look up architecture sometimes, Frank Lloyd Wright was an off-the-wall type architect that
Really?
built some beautiful houses. So. And he lives now in Arizona. So.
Oh, okay. So he owned them, and at one point a Canadian owned them as well, I think, or helped out. I don't know how. Howard and Pat Crowder.
Yeah, Howard Crowder leased him for a year.
I remember that.
Year, yeah, his second year out, Howard just rented him and leased him, or whatever you want to call that, and it was good. So otherwise, he would have gone back. Would have gone back to the States because Michael at that time was a bit of a struggling architect and just didn't have the money to campaign him for 2 years in a row. So,
So it worked out for all of you.
Yeah, it worked out great.
And I think didn't Howard and Pat own another Irish setter for you at one point?
No, I don't think so.
I thought you had a bitch you were going to show for them. I can't remember now. I was a kid, but
no. If I was, I didn't end up. I didn't do that. So.
Oh, okay. Because I know they owned a lot of dogs. They owned some cockers.
Yeah. They had Dobermans too. So
yeah. So after that, you had Finney and Crackers. What came next?
After that, I showed Doug for Jennifer McCauley, Judy's sister. She had a really nice golden. His name was Chris Haven, son of Sky.
Junior.
Yeah. And she wanted to special him and show him. And then she realized that if I had an Irish setter, she was not going to become top sporting. So she hired me to show the dog for a year.
That's pretty smart.
On the condition I didn't special an Irish setter. Well, that was fair enough. So we did. And he became top sporting. So.
Yeah. A smart move on her part.
It was very, very smart. Yeah. But so, he actually did very, very well as a show dog and as a sire too. So
yeah, he was a beautiful dog. I remember him too. These are all dogs that are in my memory bank from when I was a kid. So
yeah, well, I've sent some pictures of him too. I think too.
Yeah, so. I saw that one. Where I'm sure they all saw it at the beginning of this because Doc tends to run them all at the beginning, so everybody gets to see what because we're talking to. So we had Junior, and I remember didn't when did Rocco come along? Rocco, was that the Whippet?
Yeah, that was one of Alan Pepper and Terry Taft's dogs.
Yeah.
His co-name was Astrologer of Allery. And he was such a lovely Whippet. And I got a vesting showing him fairly early. And he was owned or leased by Mildred Snyderman. And unfortunately, Mildred and I were not exactly compatible, would be a nice way of saying it. And she would phone up every Monday morning and say, oh, I was told the dog didn't show well. I was told the dog looked fat. I was told the dog looked thin. And after a while, I said, I think, Mildred, it's time for us to part our ways. And so unfortunately, the dog could have had a good career, but if you ever see a picture of me, it's just beautiful.
Oh, it's a beautiful dog. I remember the dog.
Yeah.
That was the time before cell phones. Now we just text them back, Brian. It's like,
oh, yeah, I know. I know they do. But you know, Irish setters, were kind of in my blood. And if you remember, Irish setters, a good Irish setter will beat a great anything else, usually.
Oh, back then, especially.
They are back then. But you know, you go around the country and you see, starting in California with Tommy Tobin and the Webbs and a few people, go up the coast to Francis and Victoria, Beef's a breeder in Saskatchewan. I can't remember her name.
Sue Corpan. Yeah.
Oh, Sue Corpan, yeah. And, you go down into Chicago. There was Kenny Murray, Dick Cooper, Jack Funk, all showing Irish setters.
Yeah.
Lucy J. Myers in Duluth, breeding them by the ton. Horace Hollins in Michigan. And, wherever you went, there was some well-known and very successful Irish setter people. Yeah. Tommy Strelko in Halifax, great. Oh. Tommy Glassford. Just so many. Everywhere you went, there was a well-known Irish setter.
They dominated for a while. It was you couldn't get by the sporting group without running in the Irish setter.
You had to beat that. Well, I remember the first Irish setter I bought, the Red Barn Irish Shooting Dog, was sired by Cherry Point Brass.
Oh, wow.
Who was owned by Mrs. Shiva Porter and shown by Jane.
Yeah, he did a lot
he was top sporting in the States, for sure, but I don't know. Jane and Bob never went for top dog always. They just went best in show every weekend, but it was always with a different dog.
Yeah, and they just stayed in their area. They never ventured.
Right. Oh, yeah, they stayed in their own postal code mainly,
Yeah, that was a smart way to do it back then.
Yeah, it surely was.
So what came? There was. Let me think. When did Sarah come along? Sister Sarah. That was more in the 80s, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was. She was bred by Penny Nunley.
Yeah.
And it was Scarley's Serendipity was her name.
Yeah.
Probably, if I thought about it, probably the best Irish setter I ever showed.
Yeah.
As an Irish setter. Couldn't win worth a damn. Won a few groups, but every time some old big dog came along, she was opposite sex. But she was a beautiful, beautiful bitch.
I remember she was pretty.
I got pictures of her all over the place. So
she was owned by Jerry Tucker. We're talking about her.
Jerry. Jerry. Jerry is a funny guy. He was a herdsman for a dairy, and he looked after a couple of hundred Holstein cows for them. Can't remember the name of the dairy. Silverwoods, I think. But he had what I call as an essential for a judge. He had an eye. Didn't know an awful lot about dogs, but I could sit at ringside with him and watch a class of dogs, and I'd say, well, what do you think? And he'd pick them out 1, 2, 3, 4, and 99.9% of the time, he picked exactly the way I would have picked.
Yeah.
But he had no formal training as a dog judge. So, and I think that's the problem nowadays. One of the problems nowadays with new judges, a lot of them don't have the eye.
Yeah.
You know,
that's something you can't. That's something you can't learn.
No, you're born with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, today you watch the CKC, you write your initial exam. After that, as long as you can read, I'll be judged very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, and now I think it's more rampant now, the trading of assignments. I think if you're a show secretary, a show chairman, you go through ranks very quickly.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, because that's how a lot of it
I'll get you an assignment, you get me. And now when I watched the pandemic, and, you know, they've taken away the time and distance rule so you can judge, you know. And if you look in the Canuck Dogs, you'll see the same judges are judging, you know, every weekend.
Over and over again, yep.
Over and over and over.
Yeah, it was happening in the States there for a while, too. These certain areas was just the same judges.
Well, you know, their problem is the States doesn't have that many all breeds, but you know, if you have a group down the States, you can judge every weekend anyway.
Yeah, pretty
well, here you need 3 or 4 groups to travel.
Yeah.
Because our shows are too small.
What year did you start judging, Ryan?
I think it was about 85. Yeah, a couple of years after I showed, after Judy and I split. I showed a couple of years, but I was living in an apartment and had a full-time job, so it wasn't easy to, you know, keep the dogs in condition and get them. So I decided then I would start to judge. So I went through the whole process. It took me 20 years, I think, to become an all-breed judge. So I didn't have the connections. I didn't belong to a club or anything else. So it just took a while.
I remember. And it was frustrating because it's almost like you're being held back at one point. So
yeah, you think so. But, you know, I had a full-time job and, you know, I was the president of this major elevator company in the East Coast. And there were times I had to say, no, I can't judge this weekend. And that was the way it went. It just took a little while, but, you know, eventually we got through it eventually.
This is something I didn't touch on. Who would you consider, we all have them, who would you consider your mentors in the sport?
Well, the mentors now, in our setters, it was primarily Betty Crawford.
Yeah.
She was the one that, you know, I've spent a lot of time with and traveled with, and she's come up for the Sportsman show. And, you know, she was a great mentor, really. Also, Tommy Glassford. You know, I learned a lot from Tommy. Probably admired him as a handler. I never saw anybody who could get 120% out of every dog he showed, but he could and did.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from Tommy, not only in the showing and presentation, but you know, grooming and everything else. So he was one of the few people that taught me how to trim an Irish setter without a set of clippers. Mm-hmm. Do it all by hand.
Wow.
And George Yorkton did the same thing.
Yeah.
He could trim one. I remember the dog that Marquis, he trimmed him by hand all the time. Because Marquis didn't like clipper noise, and he hated hand dryers. So,
he hated hand dryers.
Whoa. And I think, you know, when he finished showing there, they sent him back up to Susan Hillman. And she never really did get much of a show out of him at all, ever. So, because he just didn't like trimmers, clippers, and blow dryers. So.
Yeah, and you kind of had to. Like Susan had such a big string. It would have been hard to give him the attention he needed.
No, of course not. No, I don't blame her. But,
no, of course not. I just remember that he was the kind of dog. When I went down there and visited George and Mr. Eldridge, there was always one assistant for Chance, you know. And
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because he was a lot of work apparently, mentally and physically.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure he probably was. But you know, you come in now into Golden's. Probably the first mentor was John McNichol.
Oh, and
In fact, when John decided to get out of owning dogs and doing it and becoming either a handler or a judge, he went back and forth a couple of times. But we bought his kennels. That's where the Skylon kennel came from. And everybody thought it was, the Skylon Tower in Niagara Falls, but no. The Skylon came from a kennel in England that John knew.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He took their name, yeah. The Boltby Skylon was one of the top winning Goldens in England. So,
wow.
And then we went to England a couple of times, and Joan Gill and Daphne Philpott, a couple of very successful Golden Retriever breeders and judges, and we spent a lot of time, stayed with them a few times, and they were our mentors basically in Golden Retrievers. Very, very good thing.
Talking about John brings up a lot of memories. I remember he was known as like a gentleman handler back in the day when I was.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. And a good handler, too.
Oh, and he showed a lot of Irish setters. So that's how I got to know him.
Yeah, and eventually he started to judge, and actually, before he died, he was a very, very good judge. So died a little too early, but
he did. It was so funny. When the year I showed Impresario, he was never a huge fan of Impresario. That's the beef dog. But I think I've told this story before. He, at the end of the year, when it was all tallied up and Impresario was number one dog all breed, I was at a show in Peterborough, and back then Peterborough had the judges. Each ring had a cubicle, almost a wooden cubicle where the judges sat, and he called me into the cubicle at the end of the day, and we had a beer together celebrating Impresario. So he was still very supportive, even though he wasn't a fan of the dog.
No, exactly. Yeah. I had the same thing when I was showing Finn McCool. Stan Whitmore really didn't like him very much, and barely would give him a breed, and oftentimes not to anything in the group. Then one day I won a group, I think at Aurora, and under someone else, and Stan was doing best in the show, and I thought, oh God, what am I bother? This is like the States. You didn't have to show if you didn't feel like it after the breed. But anyway, I showed him anyway, and lo and behold, Stan gave him best in show, and I talked to him afterwards, and I said, how come you put him best in show? I thought you didn't like him. Oh, he says, I like him. I just don't like him as an Irish setter.
Okay. So once he got out of the breed, and everything was
he was fine. It was really a strange thing. But
there are dogs like that. A lot of dogs like that, where the breed is difficult. Once you're in the breed, you win everything. So
that's right, exactly. Yeah. Oh no, there are a lot of dogs like that right now. But I don't know what's going to happen with our dog shows. I looked at the entry in Nipissing Kennel Club up near Sudbury the other week. 67 dogs.
Yeah, it was unfortunate they ran against the other show, Burlington. Yeah. That made it difficult because Burlington got a fairly decent entry. I think it was 300. And then.
I realize that, but the CKC doesn't worry about that because it was just another 69 dogs they got paid for.
Oh, exactly. And it was 69 dogs twice a day. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. And the question is, if they just said, no, you can't have a show because Burlington is, would those 69 dogs have come down to Burlington?
Oh, most of them would have. There's no question.
Probably a lot of would have, but there's still, as far as revenue concerned, the CKC wouldn't have got any more money either way.
Right. It's just a shame that they let it get watered down like that.
Oh yeah.
And then clubs start to struggle because that would have been easily another 50 dogs for Burlington. They would have pumped them up almost 500 dogs.
No, it would have been so. But no, you just shake your head at it sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
No. But the problem, I think, with the Kennel Club is that, they don't have a huge imagination. Everything is the lowest common denominator, even with judges, like in the States. you've been a handler of record for some time, they'll give you half a group to start with.
Oh, not anymore, Brian. They've
They don't know.
No, they make you start at the beginning, just like everybody else.
Oh, you start at the very bottom.
Yeah. No, I haven't applied down there yet, but that's how it goes. I've inquired, and they'll give you some breeds, but they've had the days of giving handlers groups and half groups are gone.
Well, they used to give them a half a group, but with a half a group, you can judge every weekend down there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Here, no.
No,
no, you don't. So I think we waste a lot of talent. There's been a lot of handlers I know that could have been really good judges and said, I'm not going through all that for the next 15, 20 years to get to become a licensed all-breed judge.
Oh, exactly. You've already given them 50 years of their life. Why do you want 10, 15 more,
Well, you've been lucky to get an all-breed judge before you died. So, it was not an easy situation to think about.
On that topic, what advice do you have for a new judge?
Well, to my mind, anybody judging or anybody even handling is the same advice: is find yourself one or two mentors. And for the first 3 years, whether you're handling or judging, don't talk. Just listen.
Yeah.
And listen some more. And 3 years later, you might be allowed to say something. Because before then, whatever you say really won't mean anything. So, it's, you talk about having an eye, you also have to have an ear and listen. Yeah. And sure, you'll get some bad advice here and there, but you should be able to separate the wheat from the chaff anyway. So, that would be my advice to anybody, either starting off handling or starting off judging.
I remember as a kid at the Sportsman Show, because it was benched, you guys were there all day long. The things I heard, listening to you and Gary and Judy and Jennifer and Tommy was there, and there was Bill was there. Bill Trainer was there. Yeah, it was so. It was, yeah, you'd hear all kinds. You shut your mouth and listen. So, yeah.
Well, you learn a lot there, but then once the bench shows stopped, the good thing that came along was trailers, and I remember. We were one of the first to have a trailer. We took it down to Chatham, I think, was the first show. And the next, about 2 or 3 years later, there were trailers everywhere.
Yeah, the Airstream. I remember the Airstream.
And then with that, people would get together and around a campfire, have barbecues. So you'd have 10 or 12 people around, and all you do is sit around, talk dogs all night long.
Those were fabulous days. As a kid, those were fabulous days because you get you and Judy and Gary and Elaine and Ben and Shirley and.
Well, you speak of Ben and Shirley, great box of beers, but we used to travel, they used to travel with us, Shirley and Eve Whitman, together, quite a pair. Both boxer breeders, but ultimately they really were good friends, though they fought a little bit. And but they come to a dog show and they get in the truck. Well, Eve would get in the truck, and Eve would not stop talking the time she got in the truck till you got to where you were going. So if you're going from Toronto to Montreal, she's talking nonstop. You didn't have to worry. About falling asleep because she just never stopped. But between those two, they also imparted a lot of knowledge.
Oh, I'm sure.
To both of us, yeah. Well, I have a funny story I'll tell you about Eve. No, she's dead now, so she can't hit me next time she sees me. But we went to a show together, just her and I, to Syracuse, and we drove down, put the dogs in the building, fed them, left them there, went out, had dinner, came back to do the last exercise. Well, she wouldn't leave her dog in the building. So she brought the dog back to the motel with the crate, put him in the crate. Next thing you know, she's into the bathroom to change, comes out with the robe on and about 3 toilet paper rolls wrapped around her head to keep her hair nice. Then she turns around and takes the dog out of the crate and ties it to the end of the bed. I said, Eve, the toilet paper was enough of a deterrent for me. But it was just a fun time. So
Yeah.
I think in those days, we had a lot of comrades or friends, and you fight like hell. Gary and I used to fight like hell in the ring, but we were great friends after.
Yeah.
And the same with all of those people. Once you're in the ring, there's no hold barred. You just did what you could to win. After that, you had a beer.
Exactly. Well, can I touch on your friendship with Gary?
Yeah, sure.
When did you guys first meet?
Oh, gosh, we first met, I think, probably in 66, 67. Wow. I was transferred down to St. Catharines, and I think it was be 67. And then, it was still showing, and I met him at the show. He had visas at the time. The greatest visas in the world. Gonna go best in show for sure. And, but then we became kind of friends like that. Highly competitive in the ring, but, outside of that, we were friends. And if you got stuck or had your car broke down anywhere in the country, pick up the phone and call Gary, he'd be on his way.
Yeah.
I'll help you. So, and very talented handler. I've seen a groomer. I think you sent me a video of Gary grooming Bouviers in Bill Miller's garage. And after about the 8th or 9th beer, he started to swear a little bit.
And sing.
It's a great video, and I still have it. So every once in a while, I'll put it on just to have a smile.
Yeah, for sure. You guys, you both dominated the area as male handlers for such a long time. So.
Oh, at the time, we were 1-2, and he was top dog a couple of times, and different breeds, and he would help you. Help. I remember one time, I think we were in Sudbury or North Bay, and I can't remember which now. And I'd won the group with Vinny, and we ran down to the end of the ring. We're doing the final round, and I turned my ankle. It looked like somebody put an egg under my sock.
Jeez.
So I couldn't show for best in the show. So Gary says, hey, I'll take him. So wait a minute, you just won the hand group with the big Afghan he showed, Gar. I can't remember.
Gar, Amber Hall's Aquarius.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, right. Yeah, owned by Gary DeMarco. But so he said no, and so he palmed Gar up, maybe that lane, I'm not sure now, and went best in show with Finn. So it was something that Ted Gunderson was the judge, and he said to Gary, hey, that'll make Brian's leg feel better. But that's the kind of guy he was. He, a lot of people don't know that side of Gary, but. And he was a little bombastic from here and there, and I have to help him out when he had trouble with the CKC and got banned. But a great loss, very tragic loss, really. Yeah. Fought to you. I think you worked for him.
I worked for him. I worked for him. Actually, during the time of his death, I was still working for him. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, it was a sad day. So.
It sure was. But I knew you guys were buddies, so I wanted to touch on.
Oh, yeah. No. We had a lot of fun together.
So, you were a director of the CKC for a while, weren't you?
Yes, I did. I was director for 3 years, just a 3-year term. A little frustrating. It was the board I was on was a little dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. Didn't really seem to get too much done, and it was also parochial. If somebody from the East wanted something, somebody from the West opposed it, and it just kind of went like that, back and forth, and we really didn't accomplish very much in the 3 years I was there. So, but I think the CKC, the governing format is really wrong. Is the board of directors is doing all the work, whereas in fact they should be approving policy and budgets, etc., and changes, and the staff should be generating those things. Mm-hmm. But right now, the board is spending most of its time in generating the needs and wants, and that should be the staff's job. And any company is normally run that way. The board of directors meets twice a year. They approve the budget. They make sure that everything, policies and rules are being followed, and that's their function. Well, the CKC board doesn't function that way, I'm afraid. But that's the setup, and I don't know how to change it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they don't. And, I remember one time I was there, and I said, well, looked at the budget they presented to the board, and I thought, holy mackerel, if I presented that budget to my boss, I would be walked to the door with a letter of reference saying, we don't want them anymore, but you're going to have them. But, most companies run 20, 30% of their income is spent in wages and benefits. CKC, at the time I was there, was over 50%.
Wow.
We can't run a business that way and be profitable or whatever. I don't know what it is now because they very carefully don't publish that budget.
So what about I go back to the dog side of it.
Yeah.
You've judged dogs for a long time now. What are some dogs that stick out in your mind that aren't being shown now? I want dogs from your past that you've judged that you enjoyed seeing, or you wouldn't mind you would have liked to have shown as a handler, etc. That type of.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, the one dog comes to mind. Probably my favorite dog was Showbow Mark Truffle, the Sally Lynn Springer.
Condor.
Yeah, fabulous dog. I'd love to have, had him on my string. I don't know what I've done there. I've done something.
Nope.
No, okay, I'm back.
We're still okay. We're okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And, I think a dog called Mill Snow Boy, and I set her a great dog. Harry Arnett showed him. It was a long time ago. So, and he was good. And in England, there was a dog, Camrose Cabus Christopher. There was a fabulous. He set the record. I think he's been beaten now, but set the record for the number of CCs. And I think he had 35 or 40 of them, which is totally unheard of. So.
Yeah.
I mean, to get a CC, you have to go best of breed or best of opposite, and that's over champions.
Yep.
You didn't get any points just for winning open dog. You had to either win the breed or go best of opposite to get a CC. And all you need is 3 CCs. Well, it sounds easy, but it's very, 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 very difficult. But, those are 2 or 3 dogs, that stand in my mind.
Did you ever get a chance to judge Condor?
No, never came into my ring. I think by the time I got up to judging in the States, they took a while, and then they grandfathered me for all breeds. So I can now do all breeds in the States. I don't, because there's certain breeds I'd rather not judge. So I just don't take those assignments. It's silly.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite sporting dogs as well, Robert. I remember being at the Garden the year he won the Garden. That was one of the most exciting gardens I've ever been to. Was the year Robert won Best in Show. So
yeah. The other dog I liked, and he was a big, high-stepping dog, was Meadowlark Anticipation that Elliot Wise showed. He put on a great show one year. I remember at the garden.
Oh yeah,
so.
for sure, Dennis. Yeah, yeah. I have a
Yeah.
statue right over there that Elliot made.
Is that right? Yeah.
Oh,
So.
He was fun to watch, that dog.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So. But yeah, that's about the few that I would remember that I like. So.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. So what's next then, Brian? You're all breeding now. You still enjoy going to the dog. Well, you haven't been to a show for a while because of the pandemic, but
no, I have made a conscious decision, that I'm not going to go out into crowds or dog shows while the pandemic is around.
Right.
My lungs are compromised enough as it is that I don't want to take that chance.
Well, that's understandable.
So I'm staying home, and then, next year we'll review it and see. I've turned down, I can't remember now, probably 6 or 7 shows this year. I'm just sorry I can't.
Yeah.
I can't in all conscience do that. And besides, if I did it, I'd come home to a locked door.
I get that.
No, Margaret would not allow me to do that. So
your love of Irish setters has gone down to your daughter, though, Jilby. So she's making a huge mark in the breed everywhere she goes. So.
Well, she has for the last number of years, actually. Produced some really, really, really nice dogs. And, when she was showing them, she did very, very well. And I spent a lot of time with her going down to some of those shows in the States just as a spectator, and then getting roped into showing 1 or 2 if she won 2 classes. And, I was just more worried about falling over than actually showing them. But no, she has one. I think you lately just showed a new one, Johnny.
Yeah, we just started.
I don't know. It's Mr. Big Stuff or something.
Mr. Big Stuff, yeah.
How she comes up with these names, I'm not sure. But
I know.
She's certainly devoted to the breed.
Well, there's no question.
Hang on a minute, Will. I'll just stop that for a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and my oldest daughter, Sarah, has probably one of the nicest set of hands.
Oh yeah, she was.
I've ever seen on anybody. Very cool. She can just not go to a dog show for 4 years, walk there, pick up a weight, and take a dog in. You swear she has been doing that for the last 10 years nonstop. So she's a very, very good handler. So
she can show anything, that girl.
Yes, she can. Yeah, she can. So, and it all came, people used to say when she was in junior handling, that's because, her parents are handlers and they help her. We didn't. She just did it all herself. So.
Oh, yeah. And then she went on to work for Carol and different people. And she was she could have easily done whatever she wanted to do in this sport. So
if she wanted to in dogs, yes, she could.
Yeah.
But it was her choice.
Oh, exactly. All right, Brian. One last question then, Brian.
All right.
If you were to meet the 20-year-old Brian Taylor again, is there any advice you'd give him?
Yeah, I'd say don't take life too seriously because you're just a little ripple in a big pond. And if you take life too seriously, you just destroy your own personality. But, take things as they come, try to be calm, which I wasn't a lot of times. And, don't take yourself seriously and try and be as helpful as you can to other people. So that would be my philosophy. I don't take myself seriously now, but I'm retired, so I don't have to.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you know, but you were a huge influence on my career. So,
I'm glad I was, Will. Glad I could help.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Brian. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, you're very welcome.
And I will have to get together once the pandemic settles down. We'll have to get back to our monthly lunches like that.
Oh yeah, that I can do, but for the moment, my doctor says avoid crowds, just stay in your own bubble, and for once, I'm listening.
Well, whenever you're ready, just give me a call and I'll be there. So
Yeah. Okay. No, got your phone book. You're all programmed in. So thank you for this. I enjoyed it, and hope it makes some sense when you edit it.
oh yeah, that'll be great. And I loved all the old pictures.
I didn't say the F word once, so that was good. You take care, Will.
All right, Brian. Give my best to Margaret.
I will. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
When will you publish this?
Probably today's. I'd like to get it out by Friday. So
Well, I'll get on the Facebook and look at it.
all right. I'll make sure I send you a link.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right, Brian.
Okay, well, you take care now.
Take care.
Bye for now.
Thanks, Brian. It's good to catch up with you. Hope we get a chance to get that beer. So if you like what we're doing here, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button. If you want to get a hold of me at willalexander.net. Well, that's my website. If you want to get a hold of me here, it's dogshowtips@gmail.com. All right. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye now.